And welcome back to another episode of the Cool Your Jets podcast. I am PJ Clark. He is Michael Nania. Ben Blessington got Bryce Young benched. So big weekend for Ben out in LA. Victory Monday for the Chargers. Victory Monday, more importantly, for the New York Jets. 1-1. I don't really want to call it gritty, an interesting 24-17 win in Tennessee, I guess is how I'll phrase it off the top here. You were in the building at Nissan Stadium, getting a little sweaty there from both the game and the heat. How was your trip? Let's start there.
I gotta say, now a lot of people might disagree with me on this one, but I was getting ready to write up a tweet in the middle of that game where I was going to say, I put up with country music all weekend to watch this. Go ahead, hate on me, whatever, say whatever you want. It was not going to be fun to have to put up with all of that to watch the Jets lose to the Titans. I'm not a country music guy. I was there for my cousin's bachelor party, which was fun, but that's not really my genre. I can put up with it, but it's not my thing. But Jets fans did show out in Nashville. That was great. I have to say the stadium was like, I would say at least half Jets fans. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but there were a lot of them in there, especially in my section. So it was awesome to be around a lot of Jets fans, and I feel like it affected the game a little bit, took away from that home field advantage. But it was a stressful one, and I hope that the text that I was sending to you and Ben in our group chat, I hope those never make their way onto the interwebs because I'm not
Listen,
very
I
proud of
don't,
them.
I, I
Now
don't,
that they
I
won.
don't blame you. Like I don't even think they're that bad. Like it was bad for a while there. It was
Yeah.
not good for a long stretch of that game.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's kind of how I am during games. I'm as measured as I may seem on podcasts, articles, whatever. I am reacting to everything like it's the end of the world on every play of a game, especially when you're there. And it was very hot when the sun peaked out. Like it was on and off with the clouds, but when the sun was out, it was hot. And you're sitting there listening to Titans fans who think Will Levis is going to be something and he's beating up your team that had Super Bowl hopes. It's not fun. And you're going to send some texts that, might be concerning from a overarching standpoint of where your head might be at. But in the end, the Jets win the football game. And that's all that matters. I said it at halftime. I was like, this is not pretty, but just win the game. This is a team that has talent. There's a lot of new faces, a lot of guys being worked in. They already have had some tough injuries to deal with. This is a team that can find its footing as the season goes on. So yeah, was that the not the win that we all kind of wanted? The convincing, like, all right, we're back, we're Super Bowl contenders. No, not exactly. But most NFL wins, or at least half of them, go like this. It's not always going to be pretty. You have to win these close games when you don't play your best, regardless of who the opponent is. And they gutted it out. So it was a good team performance, a lot of work on, but they're in the win column, and that's all that matters for now.
Yeah, that's a good way of saying it. Listen, it was honestly to me it was kind of like the San Francisco game, at least like mentally as I was watching it. Whereas the San Francisco game, we obviously know what happened. The Jets did not win, but like maybe there was a shred of doubt as they were going in to go up at least 10, if not 14 nothing before the Will Levis fumble of the decade to one up the pick six of a decade last week. Um, maybe there was a little doubt, but like once that happened, like it just the Jets are better than that team. And did they necessarily show it in the way that I would have wanted to? No, but the Jets are better than that team. And to me, it was never in doubt. Always kind of knew that they were going to pull that game out. It was not pretty, as you said. It should have been a bigger win, I would say. You could say a lot of things, but one thing you definitively can say, we'll start with the offense as we go back and we both had a chance to rewatch it a little bit today. The pass blocking has arrived. You got home and we're grinding tape
Yes.
early and we're sending out screenshots of the 3 deep shots that Rodgers took, which we'll get into in a couple of minutes here. Perfect pass protection. Again, all 5 of those guys stood up. The run blocking still leaving something to be desired for sure. But you had Joe Tippmann and Tyron Smith, your two top PFF graded players for the game. I thought Tyron in particular looked great. All of that run interior pressure that we were wondering about, their run defense in Tennessee did show up the middle there, especially early, but the pass rush was stymied by an offensive line that the Jets put a lot of investment into this offseason.
Dude, I'm so crazy. After that game, I went straight back to the Airbnb and was grinding the broadcast replay. Everyone else is out at the bars pounding beers. Like, no, I got to look at John Simpson's pass sets against Jeffrey Simmons. That's where my head is at. That's what I go to Nashville to see. And boy, did John Simpson's pass sets show out, and Tyron Smith and Tippmann and all five guys up front. That has been the strength of this team through 2 games, pretty much unequivocally. The Jets have a lot of things they could be great at. So far, they haven't been great at much, but, by the end of the season, they could have a great run game. The pass rush could find its way, the secondary, all of these things. But the one thing that has already been strong is the pass protection. And I think that's going to be the anchor of this team as the season goes along. I wrote an article about it, but that's such a great thing to be able to hang your hat on. Every great team has its strengths, whether it's a ground and pound run team or the secondary, like the Seahawks in the early 2010s, or, the Chiefs are winning these Super Bowls off their Mahomes-Kelsey combo. Everyone has that calling card. I really think the Jets pass protection could be that, because you have a quarterback in Aaron Rodgers who, as we're seeing, he still has the arm talent for sure. Maybe the most talented arm of all time is still there, but he has lost some mobility and there's a little bit of hesitancy. There are some things that he's working through, but if you can combine that arm with the pass protection he's getting, there's no limit to what the Jets can do, even with Aaron Rodgers at his age. He's taken the second lowest pressure rate of any quarterback through 2 games. In this Titans game, only 3 QB hits for the Titans in the whole game. So, it's been great so far. It's been really, really good. And if they're going to continue to do that, it's going to put the Jets in position to win so many games like this. Because the main reason the Jets won this game is because they were the team that beat themselves less between the two. They were pretty even. The Titans outgained them in terms of yardage, but Jets had no turnovers. Titans had 2, including obviously the costliest, dumbest one of the game with Will Levis in the red zone. The Jets are going to win games because they have Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, the guy who's not going to make those mistakes, and he's going to be allowed to do that because he's barely ever getting pressured. He's not going to be forced into a lot of those situations where he's going to make reckless plays, and that's because of how the offensive line is playing. And Rodgers deserves credit for that too, because he gets the ball out really quickly, so that is a part of it. But that combination is working really well right now between his release time and the O-line's pass protection. He's been getting pressured very infrequently, and that's something that I think is the anchor of why you can believe the Jets could still become a great team by the end of the season, because that formula right there is a great thing to build around.
Yeah, you add those 2 things, getting the ball out quickly with an elite quarterback and dominant pass blocking, to, dare I say, a 2-headed monster developing in the backfield, or at least a 1.5-headed monster developing in the backfield, that you hope the run blocking gets better throughout the season goes on. And that's a team that, looks dangerous in January. I think you made the best point there. The one that I was going to make is that as good as the pass blocking has been, and it's been great, the speed to get the ball out on these, quick slants over the middle, or just quick little one read down the sideline, just Alan Lazard throw it behind a cornerback kind of thing. Like, that is helping. And that's the way Rodgers has always wanted to play. And the Jets are taking advantage of it. You saw on the sack on Sunday against Tennessee that he was pretty hesitant. He was waiting for something to develop. It was clear, even in the moment, that he was kind of choking the ball for some reason. It was looking and looking. You can see his eyes darting around. And I don't know for sure, but I want to say it's probably the longest. I would assume that's the longest he's held the ball all year. And it was the only sack that happened on Sunday. So I was really impressed again across the board with the offensive line in the pass game. The run game, we could stand to improve, obviously, for sure. Again, a pretty good Tennessee run defense. They had good linebacker play at the second level. At their Ernest Jones looked pretty good, and that's a team that Ben was making an argument that that team is more talented than maybe a lot of people are giving them credit for. I do think they have nice defensive pieces, which we made that point going into last week. But I was impressed with how they showed up. But the Jets, they hung in there, and really at the end of the game, when it came down to it, and they needed a big play, it was Aaron Rodgers to Garrett Wilson down the sideline, and for as good as the throw was, honestly, I think it might have even been a better play by Garrett to kind of go chase the ball down and get his head turned around and make a play on that ball where he had outside leverage. If he just kind of ran it toward the sideline, it was open, it was going to be there. But good on Aaron to take the shot downfield, and great adjustment on 3rd and short to get a big conversion and not just move the sticks with 1 or 2 yards there. So that's what you want to see. I still think that connection is developing. We'll see what Rodgers says on McAfee tomorrow. I assume that's still happening. We're recording this on Monday night, but I'm sure he's going to say we need to get Garrett the ball more. But I thought that connection, for as little as we saw it, seemed to be working pretty well again for a second straight week.
Yeah, you can see the flashes, and just that deep shot that he hit to Garrett late. I feel like that's a really good indicator of what we could see, because that was just it wasn't. I wouldn't use the word improvised, but
it was
that
just
wasn't
feel.
designed
Totally
the
just
way.
feel.
Yeah, it wasn't designed the way it played out. It was just a basic out route, it seemed like. But Rodgers felt like Garrett had the leverage to get over the top, so he let him down the field, and Garrett felt it out innately and just turned upfield and let it drop into his arms. So that right there that shows you the chemistry that they can have. Now there are some plays that they missed on. There was the one throw of the sideline that was a little behind on the back shoulder, and Garrett could have maybe caught it. Tough play, but didn't make it. And then there's one play that I thought was Rodgers' worst of the game. I posted this, but you could see on the film there was a play where off of play action, Rodgers had great protection. He was staring at Garrett wide open on a corner route, and he kind of gears up to throw it and just pulls it down, and then starts running around. He gets hit. He throws it away. So I feel like in the first half, there was some hesitancy from Rodgers on a few plays where he could have taken shots but didn't. I don't know if that's, he's afraid to get hit right now. There's an internal clock going on in his head telling him when to get the ball out. But I feel like he turned it around really well in the second half. He probably watched some of those plays on film, talked it over, and figured that he had some of those opportunities available. And he turned around and he took those shots in the second half with 3 really good deep throws to Breece on the touchdown, Mike Williams, and then obviously the Garrett Wilson one. So I like that adjustment. But yeah, I feel like there's still some like confidence in holding on to the ball and taking some of these shots that he could work out as he reacclimates from this injury. And then I think as that comes for him, then I think we'll see Garrett's targets and receptions start to go up.
Yeah, and you mentioned Breece there in the passing game. That is a natural segue to Breece leading the team in targets, and was the rushing game all there across the board? I wouldn't say so, especially in the first half. I did like, ironically, for a team that historically does not make a lot of second half adjustments. I feel like some second half adjustments were made in the run game, and it started to pick up a little bit once they started going outside more there. But I think that Breece, especially on the go ball, and what they said, the two of them, Breece and Aaron, said post game that that was a timeout off of the play clock disaster, which we'll get into. But Breece saw it and said, if I have a linebacker on me, send me downfield, send me on a go. And that is it's a confidence inspiring thing to hear. And then to go up there and make the play and make a phenomenal catch on that ball for a huge touchdown. You'd love to see that from Breece. I thought Breece was obviously, as always, a standout performer in this game, but really impressive receiving. And that's, we haven't seen him make a ton of downfield plays like that, but if we start adding that into the game, that's going to be, hard to defend for the rest of this year.
Yeah, and I was glad to see it because I've been posting these clips going back to last year of Brees in that exact situation on a linebacker out wide, toasting him on the go route, but he's just never gotten the ball on one of those. So I feel like Brees himself has probably been begging to get one of those passes, and now he's finally got a quarterback who's able and willing to identify those matchups and take that shot. Such a great throw. I really feel like watching that live, it hung in the air for so long. I thought he's going to underthrow him, but it was just the perfect touch for him to go up there and high point it. And he looked like a wide receiver high pointing that ball. So I would love to see more of that. Like that's the thing with Brees's targets. Usually, if your running back is getting that many targets, it's not a good thing. And no, we don't want Brees Hall getting 2 more targets than Garrett Wilson
No,
regularly.
that would be bad.
But if you could get those targets into Brees Hall's diet there of targets, then I think you could justify throwing him that many passes because he is just as capable, I think, as a lot of these receivers, as he showed in that play when he gets a linebacker matchup, of making those types of plays. I think he could win a slant route if he's a linebacker on him. He showed he could go in a go route. He could do these things. So if they're going to get him involved in that type of way, and we're not just getting him 7 receptions because just check down, check down, check down, then I think it can be justified. So that was a good example of that. And another thing that Rodgers, I really like, has been doing well is his ability to take some of these vertical shots and do it quickly, because we talked about the benefits of him getting the ball out quick. It reduces pressure, takes away opportunities for the defense to get home. It keeps him safe, does a lot of good things. But usually the counter of that is, you're not attacking deep because for the most part, deep plays take some time. You need it to develop. You need good pass protection. It's often off of play action, so you need that to develop. So usually you need to hold the ball longer to attack deep. But Aaron Rodgers has been, in both of these games now, hitting a lot of these vertical passes in like 2.5 seconds or less.
Yep.
It's just he's hitting the depth of his drop and he's getting it out there. And those have been his best throws, has been those 10 plus yards in the air, but also quick at the same time. And that's really dangerous if he can do that consistently, because if you have a guy who can beat you deep before you even get a chance to pressure him with an offensive line that is not even going to allow you to get those quick pressures, then that's tough to stop. So that's the most dangerous thing about this Jets offense so far, is they have an offensive line that's not botching protections and letting things get blown up in an instant. They have a quarterback who can get it out quickly, and he's showing you that he can make money deep throws without even needing to hold the ball that long. So if they could consistently do this, that is a really dangerous thing for opposing defenses. So I love to see the combination of these different things. It's not like just a check down offense, like he's getting it out quick, but we're also not going anywhere. It's not like that. He's getting it out quick and we're pushing the ball down the field. So that is the most exciting thing about this passing game that we've seen so far, in my opinion.
Yeah, it feels like that this is not firing on all cylinders yet. Which, when you look league wide,
sure.
it doesn't seem like anybody is firing on all cylinders.
Except
You
Derek Carr.
Yeah, apparently Rashid Shaheed is like the greatest wide receiver of all time. Who knew? But you look, Deebo Samuel is going to be down for a couple weeks. Both Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua are out for multiple weeks. AJ Brown is out for multiple weeks. Like, there are guys banged up throughout the league that, those offenses are going to start maybe stalling or having to make up for star production. Or you look at teams like Dallas got blown out at home. That hasn't happened in, forever. All of these offenses scoring across the board is down. Quarterback play is down. Feels like everybody is slowly but surely rounding into form. So the Jets are not unique to this, but the Jets are unique in that a quarterback coming off a debilitating season-ending injury that didn't really play with this team at all. Almost, 3 new starters on the offensive line and a right guard that missed the majority of the season last year. It's all kind of new, and they are honestly figuring it out on the fly, it seems like, a little bit here. So I have faith that this will, come together throughout the course of the season. And Aaron Rodgers tends to get hot in the middle of the year, going into the end of the year, and he keeps hammering that point home in media that they're going to be an ascending team throughout the season. You hope to see that, but for right now, it's getting the job done, especially against a team that is probably going to struggle this year, like Tennessee. And it was not always pretty, but they successfully, I would say, did not lose a trap game, if you can call a week 2 game a trap game, and beat a team they should beat. And another guy who is slowly but surely coming around and fitting in is Mike Williams, who is 1-for-1, baby, in what the Jets brought him here to do. Honestly, a game-changing play down the left sideline and making a contested catch, which is kind of his bread and butter and what the Jets envisioned when bringing him in as the second wide receiver this year. Still getting up to speed coming off the injury, but I was pretty happy with the one aspect of the Mike Williams experience we've had so far.
Yeah, and he actually played a lot more than I realized. It was around 65%, I think. So he was out. It was quite a huge leap from what he played in the first game.
Yeah.
And hopefully he can get more looks. I was waiting. There were a lot of opportunities for Rodgers to take those shots. He finally did later. And there was that one play. I think it was the play where he got roughed on that drive to open the second half, where he put a pretty good ball over the middle. Mike Williams dove for it, was in his chest, couldn't complete it. But that was even that play where he dropped it. That was still a glimpse of like there aren't a lot of receivers who are even going to get their hands on that ball. But with his frame and athleticism, which even if it's not at where it was at the peak of his career, he's still capable of making bringing you a catch radius that not a lot of people have. So great to see him play more snaps and show up with a huge play in a huge spot. Once he really gets going, that's going to open up so much for this team. Just to have. Because right now it's Garrett and Brees. That's it. And, Lazard has 2 touchdowns.
Hey, man.
You're not.
Hey, man. Alan Lazard, the Lazardisons. We're still going.
It could still be on, but you're not scared of him yet. So once Mike Williams really starts to take that top off the defense a little bit more consistently, I feel like it's going to open up a lot. But also something you said before I want to comment on, calling this a trap game. One thing that I'm trying to train myself to do right now, as we're 2 games in here, we've seen this team play a little bit. I'm going to try to stay away from some of those ambitious labels that we had preseason. I'm not saying they can't get back to being Super Bowl contender, AFC East favorites, all these things can absolutely still do it, but let's just see them earn that a little bit first.
Team with Aaron Rodgers should not lose to Will Levis, man. Can't happen.
I agree. I just
can't happen.
You were with me. We were both making those texts. Ben's listening to this probably laughing at some of the things I was saying. He was screenshotting it and sending it to me later, like, oh, look what you said. So I don't know. Like, I just feel like let's see a couple more wins. Let's get to 3-1, and then let's start to think, okay. And then we're going into that Vikings game against the MVP, Sam Darnold, and maybe if you can win that game, then let's think about some of those titles. I just feel like right now the Jets should be a team, from our perspective as we evaluate this, let's not hold them to the standard of you should beat the Titans by 17. You should beat the Patriots by 17. If you don't, that's disappointing. Let's save those standards for when it's, they've earned it first.
No, you're entirely right. At this point, you just need wins. And especially if the offense is going to play like that, and the defense, which we'll get into, was still not great and was bailed out by Will Levis. Like, that's kind of the point, is that you said it. The Jets were not the team that shot themselves in the foot, and the Titans were. And it helps to be kind of the steady boat, still getting used to being in that position from the Jets side of things. It's a new feeling, but I enjoyed it, at least. Was it a little like mind numbing at times? And we could get into some offensive negatives here. Play calling. Disappointing, I would say. The amount of run, pass. It felt like almost the entire first half again. There were multiple instances of second and short, just nonsense run plays, and then taking deep shots on third and short. Like, guys, little out of order there. We could really do better to that end. Running out of the shotgun on third and short is like my least favorite thing in the world. And
Same.
you knew what was happening on that first pivotal third down when they ran it right up the middle out of the shotgun. Um, not Hackett's best day. I don't know what Hackett's best day looks like, but it was not Sunday.
Yeah, it just felt like there's a lot of predictability in the first half. I feel like they're still trying to find their pass run identity between what we've seen these first two games, specifically how they've come out in the first halves of these games. It really feels like they want to be a run heavy team where, they're near the top in rushing attempts, first down runs. We're going to set up 3rd and 3. We're going to play action off of that.
They're trying to protect a 40-year-old quarterback. Like that's
Yeah,
what you should do.
And that's what they're trying to do, but we just haven't seen the run blocking consistency yet to where the Jets can do what these first two opponents have done to them, which is 5 yards, 6 yards consistently on command and just put you in those favorable down and distances. And granted, they've been a little better in that regard than last year. Like there were a couple of big loss plays in this game, but they've done an okay job of getting like 3 yards consistently, and that's put them in, some 3rd and shorts. So it's better than last year's 2nd and 10, 3rd and 10, but it's also not good enough to consistently come out with back-to-back first, second down runs and expect that to be successful getting you down the field, because eventually they are going to catch up to it and they're going to get some lost plays, which they did in this game. And then that's going to put you behind the sticks and it all unravels from there. So I do think in the second half you give them and start with that last touchdown drive in the first half. You give them more consistency, because I think what they found is that right now their quick game in the passing game is more effective than the run game is at accomplishing the same goal.
Yes.
I think when they're getting the ball out quick, and it's whether it's a screen or it's just Rodgers hitting a quick flat underneath, a vertical clear out, these are things that helped open the defense up a little bit going into the second half. Then the run game was better in that second half. Brees had, was that big run in the first half or second half when he had that 30-yarder? Either way, obviously it wasn't early in the game. So you hit that, the touchdown drive later when you took the lead, you had a bunch of chunk gains on that, and you finish it off with Braylon Allen just rumbling into the end zone. So I feel like they softened the defense up with their quick game through the air, and then they built the run off of that. So potentially I think that could be their best balance. And we'll see. Maybe the run blocking gets going and they can be that
Brees run was the first drive out of halftime. So
okay. Yeah. So yeah, that goes along with what I'm saying. Like they started to open it up when, because that touchdown drive they hit at the end of the first half, you score on a screen touchdown. I think a couple of plays on that drive was, you had Allen for 11 yards. That was just a check down. Conklin had a 10-yard check down on that drive. So yeah, they close out the first half with a lot of short passes. Then you come out second half, you hit a 30-yard run. So yeah, maybe the Jets could eventually be an elite run blocking team. We're going to pound it down your throat. Aaron Rodgers doesn't have to do anything. They're still capable of doing that. But right now it feels like the pass is going to set up the run more so than the other way around, especially with how well Rodgers is getting the ball out quickly and this offensive line is pass blocking. I think those things are setting up the run game. So I do give him some credit for how he turned it around. But yeah, very predictable in the first half. And also, and this is shared between quarterback and OC, but a lot of lateness, getting the play in, getting the snap off, flirting with delay of games. I think
terrible.
Twice they had to call timeout to avoid one. So definitely some shaky operation stuff there as well.
Yeah, it was Rodgers said it was on him, that he just, historically likes to take the clock down, and that's how he plays, which is true. Like if you look throughout his career, because he's trying to see as much as he can. And I think that might even be an adjustment thing with the newfound lack of mobility. Or a lot of people have even been saying that, he wasn't mobile necessarily when he won the 2 MVPs, and it's gone downhill since, 2019, 2020, which is true. Like obviously he's aged considerably in the last couple of years and is now the least mobile he's ever been. But I think maybe you're seeing that now. How much can he get out of an extra 5, 6, 7 seconds at the line that when you can't move as well as you used to, you're just trying to figure everything out before you snap it and go, which again, that's rust that I feel like is going to get knocked off throughout the season. But once they started running it outside a little bit more, things got better. Getting Braylon Allen downhill to the outside, I feel like is a strategy that maybe should be employed more often, because that is a big dude. Once he gets
Yeah.
going, is pretty hard to take down. And that last touchdown, they checked into that at the line. I mean, they were ready for it. That is the value of having Aaron Rodgers, right? Like
Yes.
when he's at the line and using his brain and seeing what's out there, is you check into the perfect call to take advantage of an aggressive Tennessee defense and get outside with your biggest baby Derrick Henry looking guy and run it outside there and get into the end zone for 2 touchdowns from the youngest player in NFL history. So I feel like that's a nice commendable check mark for the Jets there.
Yeah, and I like the point you make there in using Braylon Allen outside, because I feel like with a lot of power running backs, there's a misconception that, like, the best way to use them is like just pound the defense up the middle. That's what we're going to do with this big guy.
Derrick Henry outside is maybe the greatest player in NFL history.
Exactly. And, you're in Nashville, their first season without Derrick Henry, so it made sense to pay homage in their own way. But yeah, that's the best way to use a running back like this is, even if you're a big running back, those 300-pound guys on the inside are still a lot bigger than you. But if you have a 235-pound running back, he's a lot bigger than those DBs on the outside. That's who you want to running against. That touchdown that, or both the touchdowns he got, the screen, there was a safety who flew across the field, tried to cut him down at the legs, and he just freaking like backflipped over him.
It's an incredibly hard guy to tackle. He's
and then the second touchdown run, I don't know if the safety thought he was not as fast as he is, but he way over pursued, and Braylon Allen just breezed past him. That's the guys you want him running against. So I think there could be a sort of dynamic of, let's run Braylon Allen outside, get the defense feeling that a little bit, and then Breece Hall can hit you up the middle, have that explosiveness. So yeah, I mean, Braylon Allen, that's one of the biggest stories of this game. I mean, obviously he scored 2 touchdowns, so it's not like we're revealing anything groundbreaking here. But if you could get 2 running backs that you feel good about, it changes a lot, because guess what? The Jets did not have that last year, and it definitely made an impact, because whenever Breece Hall is off the field, you might as well just, call an intentional grounding on them, or just loss of down penalty, because they weren't going anywhere if Breece Hall wasn't on the field. Now they have a guy who you can put in, and he can make plays, and you could put them on the field together, and you could go off of that threat of screening, throwing a screen to Breece Hall and throw the screen to Braylon Allen and score a touchdown, as they did. So there's a lot of opportunities that open up when you have a second guy who shows he's as capable as Allen did in this game.
Yeah, and I wanted to go back to before we kind of turn to Braylon there on the quick passing game, getting the offense going. Like, that was something that I kind of just. This is not like the greatest analysis in the world, but as that game was developing, it just totally seemed like that was the way to attack that Tennessee defense. Like, it felt like every time they dropped back to pass, it was positive momentum. He was hitting guys in the hands. There was a very short list of truly bad throws that were out there, and I felt like you had a chance every time you tried to play that quick little slant over the middle to Garrett, which you should have a chance. But that was moving, whereas running, especially Braylon Allen inside, was having no success, just getting stopped behind the line, at the line, just trying to fight for 2 yards, where it's like, it's not working. Like, and the Jets are up to 10th in offensive efficiency, which I think is a pretty good sum of the parts right now. And the offensive line and the pass blocking is a huge part of that. But I think the quick game being so good and having so few problems that have come along with it in 2 games now, obviously Sunday better than Monday, has kind of buoyed that to where if the running game can get to a respectable spot, then you could really see this whole thing get unlocked. But also, when you go to the passing game as we saw with the roughing the passer, as we saw with the penalty on L'Jarius Sneed, which we shouted out last week as, one of the most penalized players in the NFL last year. When you throw the ball, you get a little bit more leeway. You have an elite quarterback that's going to get, the benefit of the doubt on roughing the passer calls. You can throw the ball downfield and try to get a spot foul. You can get a defensive holding. I would say there are fewer things that can go wrong on the defensive side on a run play if you're trying to run the ball between the tackles and run it short than if your short yardage game is throwing the ball. You, as an offense, have a little bit larger of a margin for error there.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. And you brought up earlier, like how a lot of teams around the league are struggling to score right now. Offense is down, passing is down. Everyone's talking about it. And I think it's a real opportunity for the Jets passing game with Aaron Rodgers to separate themselves, because a big reason this is happening is a lot of the too high soft defense that teams are playing, because they don't want to give up the deep play. So they're daring you to run the ball. And a lot of teams are turning to that. And look, even if teams are daring you to run the ball, passing is just better. It just is. Those are the facts. Even as long as, teams are trying to make you run the ball, for a lot of the reasons you just mentioned, all the things that can go your way passing the ball, and just in general how much more efficient it is, passing is better. And the Jets have a quarterback who can get to the line and make the right calls to take advantage of those matchups. Like, take, for example, that one pass, I think it was a 3rd and 8, that he threw to Lazard. He just took the snap immediately, just like a quick seam, just spit it out to him right up the gut because no one is covering him. They have a quarterback who can take advantage of some of the weaknesses that are becoming more common in NFL defenses, because, like, watching the Tennessee defense in this game, I feel like their defensive front was very aggressive playing the run, and that allowed them to stop the run pretty well for most of the game until the second half. And then back end, it was a lot of too high, and the Jets couldn't really get those shot plays on them. There were a lot of plays where Rodgers either threw it away or checked it down because Jets had a couple deep routes on the outside. They were just playing right into the hands of whether it's cover 2 or quarters or whatever. They just had it bracketed. So you couldn't really go vertical outside, and they couldn't really run the ball, but there were openings in the middle because of those two things. And once they kind of adjusted to that, let's throw to the flat and get some yak. Let's hit those quick, like a couple times Garrett Wilson sat down.
The yak
little
king
curl
is on the roster, allegedly.
And the yak king is there.
We haven't seen it yet, but maybe at some point we will.
And he would also be a great counter. So, yeah, basically what I'm saying is I feel like the Jets, as much as they want to be a run-first team, and the run is crucial for them to unlock the ceiling of this team, I really feel like they should start thinking about working it the other way around and understanding some of the advantages that they have with this quarterback and these weapons against some of the ways that teams are playing defense. They're not letting you throw deep, and they're seeding some of those yak type of plays in the middle of the field. Let's hit those. And once we establish that, as they showed in this game, then you could run the ball. So I think they have the potential to really become a pass, set up the run type of team and get a good balance going there. If they can come out of some of these games setting that up through the air, instead of like, let's run, pass and wait till we have to throw, then we'll get it going. So I would love, and we'll get into our New England preview briefly towards the end of this, but I would love to see them come out on Thursday night and start to work some of that. Let's come out and throw the ball, spread them out, see if we can work our run game off of that instead of vice versa.
Yeah, and it's I mean, really, when it comes down to it, like, I don't want to slight Brees or Braylon Allen for that matter at all, and I do want the Jets to run the ball, and I think they should be good at running the ball eventually at some point this season, but to this point, it hasn't been great. We've waited so long to have a quarterback that even at the advanced age and the lack of mobility or whatever, like, let Aaron Rodgers be the reason. Yeah, just let him be the reason. Like, that's it. And if it is this little dink and dunk and game managerial, then so be it, if that's going to win games. But you can dink and you can dunk and you can just throw those slants over the middle to Garrett. And then that opens up a 30-yarder Mike Wilson. or Mike Williams, great. Every time Mike Wilson, I'm just combining them. If that opens up and a 30-yarder to Garrett Wilson, great, fine. Like you can play the take your medicine, take your medicine, take your medicine, which in the passing game has worked out pretty well for the Jets so far when you're talking short to intermediate routes. And then you have a healthy Mike Williams. You have a Lazard who's pretty good down the seam. That is a size, speed kind of guy that can get down the field. Or you have a Garrett, just spatial awareness, elite receiver type that can make that 30-yard catch on third down. So you have options. And Hackett should know this. Just let Aaron be Aaron and see what happens. And that's not a slight to the running game. That's not a slight to Breece Hall, who is obviously an elite talent. But I feel like we've waited this long for Aaron Rodgers to be under center, and that should kind of just be the be all end all, at least early in the season right now.
Yeah, it did feel like early on we were watching last season again, and they were just playing protective football for the quarterback with Zach Wilson back there. But yeah, like as much as I understand that they want to protect Rodgers as much as possible, especially early in the season. So I get it. This is something that could improve and develop as the year goes on and he reacclimates, gets more comfortable. He took a couple hits in this game, so starting to get his wind back. So I understand that. But the thing is, with the way this passing attack has looked so far, you can feel comfortable with him dropping back a lot because he's getting the ball out quicker than anybody in the league. They have a great pass blocking offensive line. It's not a high risk passing game. So he could drop back 40 times and get hit 4 or 5 times. You could feel comfortable about, you're not putting him at a lot of risk by passing the ball a lot, especially if you're going to do a lot of the quick passing we talked about. So yeah, I would love to see them start to build the offense around that more. And the run game does need to be great. It can be great. I still think it will. But yeah, it's more so just like, what are you using to set up the other phase? Right now, they're trying to do run, set up, pass, but it hasn't quite been good enough to get that rhythm going. So maybe the other way around can work. But we did make it. What is this? How many minutes are we at?
Yeah,
42
we're at like
minutes
40 minutes.
without
I was just
mentioning
going to say.
the defense of the New
Yeah.
York Jets, which arguably has been talked about more than the offense. So we got to hop into this and talk about a unit that is.
I don't really want to talk about the defense.
Got some big questions. I know. Maybe that's why we made it this long. There are questions to answer here for sure, and that's why it's exciting to talk about the offense before we get into it. Is like if you could see all the answers. There's a foundation there. It's very easy to picture that coming into form. The defense, not saying that can't happen, but it feels like those questions are a little more frightening than the offensive side. So let's get into it. Where do you want to start with the defense?
Yeah, well, they got pretty frightening with the fact that Jermaine Johnson is out for the year with the torn Achilles. I would love if the Jets could have a game, like a nice just franchise win without like a big name player tearing his Achilles. So we'll go back to the drawing board. We'll go back to the drawing board on that. But that is obviously a crushing blow to a team that was already pretty thin and pretty young at edge rusher this year for obvious reasons, living in Camden, New Jersey at this point. No development on that front to this point at 10 o'clock on Monday night. I can't imagine he's going to play on Thursday. So maybe when you have a 10-day break, it could get interesting for Hassan Reddick and Woody Johnson makes a call and who knows. But as of right now, it's the Will McDonald show. Will McDonald actually showed up on Sunday. That's a huge positive that we could take away. So let's just go into scout the stat line for Will McDonald in his 3-sack performance that everybody is so overjoyed about. Not to say that Will McDonald played poorly at all. He didn't. I actually thought he was great, but 3 sacks does not entirely tell the story there at all.
Yeah, little embellished. I remember walking out and then seeing the tweets like he had 3 sacks, like thinking that to myself. So yeah, the first sack that he had,
3 sacks and a forced fumble. Sorry, 3 sacks and a forced fumble.
And a forced fumble, 3 tackles for loss, 3 quarterback hits, man, he was everywhere. Again, he played good. I'll get into it, but a little embellished, like I said. So the first sack, he was a QB spy, came up, made the stop for about a 2-yard loss. Really good play, like for sure. He deserves credit
Great.
for that.
Showing
As we saw
athleticism,
later,
played his role.
Will
Good stuff.
Levis could make some people miss on this defense. So great play there, but obviously not like a true pass rush rep in any way. He was in coverage. Second one, this is the one I did not even know that he got until after the game. But the iconic play from this game, Will Levis throwing a bowling ball into the arms of the Jets defense. Will McDonald got a strip sack on that, and he got chipped, and he was on his hands and knees, and Levis just tripped on him while he was scrambling, and they gave him a strip sack for that. So that one you could just write that one off
Line drive
as
in the
luck.
book, baby. They don't care how it looks.
Doesn't matter. But the last sack of this game for Will McDonald was a legitimate high-end pass rush play that you drafted him for. Clutch moment of the game. You need a stop, and a loss would be massive to tilt the odds in your favor. And Will McDonald had, what is easily the best play of his career so far.
Yep.
A little bit of power to start it off, get some depth, convert it to the rip around the corner, and then the bend that you saw when he gets past that tackle and gets his hips back towards the quarterback. That right there is the elite trait that could make him a great sack artist for this team, because a lot of guys can get past the tackle. That's not particularly hard for an NFL D end. What's hard is getting past him, then getting it back to the quarterback. And that's what he did on that play. And then on top of that, the length that he showed was also impressive. He's very long arms. I think it's 91st. I looked it up before. I don't have this number stored in my head. 91st percentile arm length. And he needed every bit of it on this sack, because even after he bent around the corner, he still was kind of a few feet back from him, but he reaches all the way out, grabs Levis by the shoulder, takes him down. Massive play. So that was an elite play for sure. And the play before that, he hit his inside spin move.
The play before is the first time we saw the spin move, really.
Yeah, he finally hit that inside spin move, created pressure, led to an incompletion. So Will McDonald took over that last sequence, and I don't want to say single-handedly won the Jets the game there, because the coverage was also really solid on that last play. But when they needed it most, he stepped up big time towards the end there. So 2 legit plays there. He had one really good run stop where he handled his backside, contained pretty well, stayed patient, let it come into his arms. But he did have some shaky run reps. There was one where he got totally pancaked and gave up his backside contain while kind of over pursuing up the field. So still some run reps to work on. And yeah, some of these sacks, not the most legitimate, but man, did he come through when they needed him the most at the end. So those last 2 plays, elite. And that's what you want to see from him consistently going forward, as he's going to play a lot more snaps.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to need somebody to get after the quarterback going forward. Not that, it was going so well with everybody healthy at all, but it was a much needed game from Will McDonald, I feel like, for the confidence as a defense as a whole, and moving forward now without Jermaine Johnson. This opens up a lot of question marks as to, snap distribution. The Jets are a team that likes to rotate the defensive line in and out, both interior and edge. You're just kind of running out of bodies at this point, or playable bodies. Like Braden McGregor did not have a great game on Sunday, ended up having to play a lot. Eric Watts probably active now, I would assume. Ben is desperate to play Jalen Holmes at big end. So maybe we see that, and you see like a Bruce Hector come up to try to play some interior, take that roster spot and play some interior in an effort to stop the run if they don't clearly think Leonard Taylor can do it. The defensive line snap distribution, and I don't know if necessarily a short week is going to be the easiest week to kind of get a sense of it, but going forward is something that I'm totally going to be keeping my eye on, because it's pretty bleak right now. Like, Takk McKinley is legitimately the third man up after the 2 starters. It's like, okay, this escalated quickly from like literally a tryout at rookie minicamp for a
Yes.
former failed first round pick to
Wow.
it's week 3 and he's literally the third man up. It's tough. It's a tough turn of events for a team that without their best player at the position was thin to begin with, and then losing Jermaine Johnson on top of that.
Yeah, it's rough because you look back at last year now, and 4 of your top 5 pass rushers from last season, Quentin Jefferson, John Franklin Myers, Bryce Huff, Jermaine Johnson, specifically your top 3 edge rushers, are out of the picture. And you, with Hassan Reddick not there, you didn't add anything to make up for it. You have Will McDonald, you're counting on a lot from him there, and he's shown some good flashes, but it's thin. Like, we have to be honest, this is a below average pass rush for now until Hassan Reddick comes back. And we don't have to go too deep into that conversation now, but yeah, it's pretty safe to say that however they get it done, you really need him if at this point now to, legitimately be the type of defense that you wanted to be. So that's a conversation for another day. I think it'll be better for after this Patriots game because it's not going to happen before this game. Too quick of a turnaround. But after that, could something transpire on this mini bye week? Potentially. So I think we can go into it deeper there. But yeah, it's a tough situation. But on a positive note, to turn it to the interior, I do think Javon Kinlaw has done a nice job filling in for Quentin Jefferson so far. Like I feel like he's replicated what Quentin Jefferson was, which is an explosive pass rusher who generates a good amount of pressure for you. And look, run defense, not amazing, but occasionally with his athleticism, he has blown up some plays. Even if he hasn't made the stop, there are times where he'll penetrate the backfield and make some stops. But passing game, he's generated consistent pressure. There was also a play in this game where he drew a hold, which is essentially a sack, kind of.
Yep.
So yeah, I really like what he's done so far, and if he can maintain that, I think you'll feel good about where that interior group is at. And it's been a kind of a quiet start for Quinn Williams, but obviously not a great situation for him when you look at what's around him right now. He'll be fine.
He's blatantly playing out of position. Like they're just not.
And we got him on the edge right now. I mean, that's how dire it is. I mean, Quinn Williams on the edge, that should not be even in this situation. I don't think they should be doing that at all. But it's rough times right now for sure.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. It's not gonna be easy from here on out. You would think this opens up a new sense of urgency for the Reddick situation, but who knows really at this point if that's even salvageable. But do you go out and sign a Yannick Ngakoue or a Henry Anderson? Jets Legends is out there. Yeah, like
Henry Anderson. It's a name I've not heard in a long time.
Kyle Phillips is out there. Somebody tweeted out like the Spot Track best edge rusher based on last year's salary, and it's like spattered with former Jets. So if Terrell Basham's available, like we'll find out, I guess. Outside of Jermaine Johnson, another notable injury, CJ Mosley went out early with a toe. Saleh said they're hopeful for Thursday. We know how generally reliable those press conferences are from Robert Saleh. So
he'll be on IR tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's what that translates to.
But without CJ Mosley, and this breaks my heart to say because I love him, Quincy Williams shifting over and taking more of the Mike role and Sherwood playing way more, getting more snaps and playing a different role at inside linebacker. Man, those two were flying out there on Sunday. I think those were the best two players on the team.
Yeah, I think Sherwood does have the upside to be better than Mosley is right now. I know that's been a huge topic on Jets Twitter. Like, is Sherwood better? Did they play better with him? I think they could, and that's not a slight on Mosley. It's just the fact that at this stage of his career, I think he's lost a step. There was one play. This is a really good example. There was a crossing route. I think it was Tyler Boyd caught on him in the first quarter, and like you could see, he was all over it. He saw it was coming. But he just didn't have this. I know it's linebacker versus wide receiver, but like Quincy Williams in the same situation is making that play. I think Jamie and Sherwood in the same situation is making that play. But there's a step lost with Mosley by this point. Still a good player, Just I think there are certain situations where a more athletic player is capable of making plays that Mosley might not be able to right now. And against a Titans team that was running the ball outside on you really well, they were
Yep.
hitting shallow crossers on you, they hit an end around on you. A lot of these plays, it did help to have a much faster linebacker out there. And, the downside of that typically is, he might miss some tackles that maybe a more sturdy linebacker would make. But in this game, that didn't happen. Sherwood was making every stop that needed to be made when it came his way. So you couple that with the speed that he has, and like it did make the Jets defense better in this game. So we'll see if he can maintain that. But I trust him too, because in the sample that he played last year as their third linebacker, he was solid. He really did his job well, even if it wasn't a lot of snaps. So I think Mosley will be back, hopefully for this game, but we know how it is with Saleh. And it being a short week and him being a veteran, maybe they hold it back. And maybe another reason that you play it safe with him is because you have Jamie and Sherwood, and it's not dire to get him back out there when you have that type of depth at linebacker. So Sherwood and Quincy were their two best defenders in this game to me, because like a lot of the defense in this game was just, wow, thankfully Will Levis turned it over or, made some type of mistake. And he did make some good throws and,
Oh
scrambled.
yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, there were a lot of defensive stops that, maybe were like, all right, I don't know if we did too much, but the two guys who legitimately made a difference consistently, I think, were these two linebackers. Just sideline to sideline, they made a lot of fantastic stops in space that saved a good amount of yardage.
Yeah, I mean Quincy was flying as always, and you brought it up there that the pitfall of that is generally that Quincy is flying and flies past guys and really is not moving in the right direction always, but he's always moving. And I thought it was a kind of a contained fury from Quincy Williams, I would
Yeah.
say, on Sunday, and was really, really good. So you hope to see more of that, especially if Mosley's going to be out, but I would just hope so across the board. That's another guy that I don't like. Do you just start blitzing now? I feel like you have to kind of supplement some edge pressure, and I would have Quincy Williams kind of get after it at that fact. You want an athlete, your fastest guy in the middle there, and can he be used effectively as a blitzer? That obviously takes him out of coverage, which is not the greatest thing in the world. But when you need to pressure the quarterback, you're kind of running out of options with the roster the Jets have right now. So that's something to keep an eye on for Thursday. One more positive shout out on the defense before we turn it over to negatives and then get to New England. I know we're running long here, but Brandon Echols playing every snap. Literally finding out that morning that DJ Reed was a no-go after warm-ups and making an incredible interception on, yes, a terrible Will Levis throw and a bad judgment with two guys draped all over a receiver downfield, but to wrestle that ball away with one hand and come down with it. We made jokes about it that Brandon Echols is just going to show up and make 3 plays this year because that's kind of what he always does. And we still have 2 games against Miami left, so it's not over yet. But man, I was really impressed with just the effort against 3 professional receivers in Hopkins, Ridley, and Tyler Boyd that Echols showed out there on short notice.
Yeah, it was awesome. The interception was great, and he's just got this knack of every time he shows up, he's got a major highlight in his bag to pull out. And he finished, like, the interception was the highlight, but looking at the numbers here, he finishes, like you said, played every snap, and he only allowed 1 catch for 6 yards on 4 targets.
Yep.
So, like, testament to him for sure, but there's a consistent theme going here with the Jets that DBs are able to step up and just play well within the system. We saw it against the Eagles last year with Craig James contributing. And then in this game, even Michael Carter was out for a decent portion of this game, and Isaiah Oliver was playing slot corner snaps to finish the game. And Chuck Clark was playing snaps on the outside, filling in. So, like, this defensive coaching staff has done so many great things, but especially I think in the secondary with Tony Oden, they have everyone ready to go consistently on this unit. And, speaking of that defensive coaching, they're going to be tested with this defensive line. This is going to be their biggest test yet. And to go back to your original point there, should they blitz more? I think this Thursday is a good opportunity to try that out because, like we said, we know no chance of Hassan Reddick or any veteran additions going into this game. You're going to roll with the same lineup. Pretty much the same lineup that you rolled out against the Giants in the third
Eric Watts,
preseason game.
congrats on being active. That's
Eric Watts, the whole UDFA crew, they're all going to be out there. So I think this is a good chance to test the waters a little bit and see if, maybe start the game and see what these guys got, if they can win on their own. But if you can't, you do have to think about throwing in some more blitzes because the Jets are so reliant on pure pass rush talent. They do not blitz on first or second down. They're going to rush 4, trust they can get pressure with that so they can drop 7. Okay. And if you just don't have the talent, guys who can't win, you're just not going to get pressure. So are you willing to live with that and just rely on your coverage to win every game? That's a hard thing to do. Or are you going to take that risk and, let's manufacture the pressure, but also, take a guy out of coverage? It's an interesting dilemma because that is not something the Jets have done. They've been very, adherent to their system and their philosophies. But if, barring any additions or returns to this defensive line, it's going to be rough to see them create pressure on their own.
Is it a return if you never showed up in the first place?
He was at the press conference. He was there. So it is a return.
I guess he's walked in the building before. That's a good point.
He has been inside of the building.
Negatives from Tennessee. Run defense still not really there yet. I would say Tony Pollard looked pretty good again and got to the outside, and a lot of cleanup from Quincy Williams and whatnot. We'll just hit these quick. Sauce Gardner, not great. First time really ever allowed that deep touchdown, which was probably on Chuck Clark, but not great even outside of that. Allowed 4 catches on 5 targets, I believe it was. The safety play I was not entirely encouraged by. It was there's still some cleanup out there for sure.
Yeah, Sauce, probably his worst game as a Jet. I mean, look, the one touchdown, as you said, maybe you put it more on Chuck Clark because he kind of got in the way. Sauce backed off a little bit. Was he a little slow getting over Chuck Clark, potentially? And plus just the fact that ball got through is so miraculous. You could hardly make that a smaller window. Could Sauce have played the ball a little bit better? Sure. But, I'll give him a pass for that one, really. I don't think it's that much. It's not indicative of any sort of decline. It's just a ball that happened to get through on very tight coverage. But he did have a bad missed tackle on one play. I forgot what it was, but one really bad missed tackle. He gave up a few other catches over the middle in addition to that big one. Not his greatest game for sure. But safety play, yeah, I thought Tony Adams had some shaky angles in the run game. He was credited with a couple missed tackles. That does check out with what I saw. Chuck Clark too had a couple misses. They only charted him for 1, but I feel like that you could have got him for 2 maybe. So safeties were a little shaky. Sauce not great, but the thing is, in this game, even with that, you had guys like Brandon Echols stepping up, and that kind of made up for it. So that depth that you have in the secondary came up big in this game for sure. So I'm not worried about Sauce or anything like that. The last few games before this, he had given up, I forget what the exact numbers were, but he was on a streak of 7 straight games, like 0 yards, 7, 4, 11 in the entire game. So fine. He's more than okay.
Randy Moss game, and yeah. I'm not calling Calvin Ridley Randy Moss because that would be sacrilegious, but it happens, right? And especially against a young quarterback who is grip it and rip it and throw it downfield. If you get hit once, you're going to get hit big, kind of thing, and that's what happened. And whatever. Back to the drawing board. It is for Thursday Night Football, a short week, capping off the 3 games in 11 days or whatever it's going to end up being here. New England Patriots 1-1 come to town. A big upset win against Cincinnati in Week 1. Took Seattle to overtime on Sunday. This is a team that the Jets know looks a little different. Obviously, no Belichick. Obviously, no Brady. Jacoby Brissett back under center there. This is a team that can run the ball. That's pretty much their offense right now is run the ball and check downs to Hunter Henry. So they had Ramondre Stevenson with 81 yards and Antonio Gibson ripped off a long one to put him at 96 on the day against Seattle. And Jacoby Brissett targeted Hunter Henry, I believe it was like 12 times or something crazy on Sunday. Yeah, 12 times, 8 catches for 109 yards for Hunter Henry on Sunday. So this is a team that is better than I think anybody gave them credit for. They're playing pretty hard. They have an offensive strategy of kind of ride Ramondre until he drops, and it's worked all right for them so far. They were very susceptible to the pass on Sunday against Seattle. Geno was dealing. You had Metcalf with 10 for 129 and a touchdown. Jackson Smith and Jigba with 12 for 117. Run defense was great for New England, which, is that really going to hurt the Jets, as we discussed before? We'll see. But what sticks out in your brain as the Jets have to recover here in 3 days and have a home opener in front of what I'm sure is going to be a crazy MetLife crowd on Thursday?
Well, I got to give Ben some credit here because going into that Titans game, he was saying how he thought this was going to be a tight game because the Titans are kind of a team that is well built to make it tough on the Jets. And he was right. I kind of overlooked that. I was like, the Titans are trash. The Jets are going to have their coming out game. They're going to win 31-13. But Ben was right. And the reason I think that matters is because I think we're getting another game like that this week. This is a second consecutive game against a team that, look, they're not super talented. I don't think we expect the Patriots to make the playoffs despite the start. Maybe they do, but never want to rule it out. But yeah, on paper, not a team with high expectations, but very similarly to the Titans, they are built to exploit the Jets. They run the ball, which the Titans did, and it helped them control the game. They protect the football. They haven't turned it over yet this season, and they stop the run. All these are things that the not turning it over part is not a Titans strength, but they run the ball and they stop the run. And that's what the Titans we knew would be good at and test the Jets with. And those things made life hard on the Jets. So the Patriots are also built to do that. So it's going to be interesting. And the big difference is the thing, comparing them to Tennessee is the thing I just mentioned. Tennessee could do those two things. They could run the ball and stop it, but they also have a quarterback who's just going to give the ball to you sometimes. But Jacoby Brissett, for all of his faults, that's something he will never do. He is, to a fault, a very turnover averse quarterback.
Yep.
He's not thrown a pick this season yet. Most seasons he's very, very low in interceptions. So if the Jets have a similar game to what they had against Tennessee, they come out, they can't run the ball and they're punting, and they also are giving up chunk gains against the run. Brissett's not going to bail them out with the plays that Will Levis did. So that's a little scary if it goes the same game script as it did in Nashville. But at the same time, Jacoby Brissett is also not going to chuck that ball that turned out to be a touchdown to Calvin Ridley. He's not going to hit some of that wheel route to Tony Pollard that he hit. So there are some similarities and differences, but overall, I think you're getting a very similar matchup to what you got against the Titans. Just a scrappy, gritty underdog team that challenges the Jets in some areas of weakness for them right now. So I am not going to fall into the same trap that it did last week and think this is the Jets coming out party. They're going to blow them out. This is going to be a tough game, and I fully expect that this week. So the Jets, like I said, Jets' weaknesses are going to be challenged for the third straight week now to start the season.
Yeah, I for me, when I look at this New England defense, Keon White is taking an incredible leap in his second year here and has been one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. That matches up against the strength. I'm excited to see how kind of the two tackles contain him and hold him in check, hopefully, and keep Rodgers clean. But man, if you're watching that game from yesterday and you're Aaron Rodgers and you're Garrett Wilson and you're hopefully a more healthy Mike Williams than you were 2 weeks ago, you got to be licking your chops. Like Geno Smith throwing for 325 yards. This is a susceptible back end that you can hit them over the top early and often, which is not something that we have seen. We've seen hesitancy. We've seen the quick game. We've seen underneath. We've seen over the middle. We've seen glimpses deep, but we have not seen the outright Rodgers, roll out 3 steps to his right and uncork one. I think if Hackett is smart and paying attention, I would like to see a pure, just absolute uncork one within the script. Get that early and see if you can beat this team over the top, because that honestly is what won the game for Seattle after they took them to overtime.
Yeah, we talked about it before, how, first half felt like there was hesitancy, double clutching from Rodgers, but he found some of his matchups in the second half and took those shots. And like you said, this whole New England team is built on the ground game, and it built through the ground game on both sides of the football. They run it to a crazy degree right now. I mean, the way that their wide receivers so far have 11 catches this season through 2 games. So this is a ground-based team on offense. They're a ground-based team on defense too, but you could throw the ball on them. They're not a perfect team defensively, like you said. Judon's not there anymore. They have, Keon White has broken out, so they have pieces, but it's the pass defense is susceptible. So we talked before about passing to set up the run, and that's mostly about quick game and stuff. But like you said, there are opportunities, especially if Mike Williams is healthier. So I agree with you. It would be good to see them come out and establish the pass to set up the run, and then allow that to control the game. Because if you can get ahead on the Patriots early, I think, obviously we say this every game, get ahead, start fast. Like it's always great, but especially against this team.
Well, we're going to keep saying it until it happens.
We're going to keep saying it. That's right. When was the last time it did happen? The Washington game last year?
Yeah, it certainly
that doesn't count. When was the last time it happened in a real game that we care about? Denver last year? No, they were trailing that game too, right?
I don't.
Even the Giants game?
Houston, Houston, they didn't allow a point, so I guess it was.
But it was like 3-0 at halftime, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's been a while, so I guess we do have to say this cliche every single week. But my back to my point with this team, this team is not built to play from behind. With Jacoby Brissett at quarterback, they're not really a catch-up team, not an explosive passing team. But if they get ahead of you, they will run the ball, they will grind the clock. They are not going to turn it over and give you a chance to make it up easily. So they're built to play from ahead pretty well based on what we've seen so far. But if you can get ahead of them, you feel pretty confident that you're going to be able to stay ahead. So yes, it's a cliche, but I think it's more important than usual in this game.
Offensively, to me, this is going to sound kind of contradictory, but it's going to make sense, I hope. I would like to be reckless, but not stupid. Like, just try to go down the field and don't, because this is a team, unlike Tennessee, as you said, that is not going to shoot itself in the foot, is not going to make the back-breaking offensive mistake in the red zone that is going to give the Jets an extra possession and take points off the board, like anything like that. This is very methodical, we're going to run it between the tackles. We're going to check down to our giant tight end and go 3 yards at a time. You are not risking a lot there. I would like to see a little bit of old-fashioned gunslinger, be a little bit more cavalier with the offensive play calling, try to open this thing up a little bit. Because if you jump out 10-0, 14-0, 14-3, like you said, it's going to be hard for Ramondre to will them back into that game, pending complete defensive breakdown in the run game, which is possible from what we've seen, but at least it would take time off the clock to kind of get back into it. So as we hit the hour 15 mark here, sheesh, can we have a prediction for Thursday Night Football?
Well, we said the spread in this game was 6.5, right?
Yeah, it's
Jets
a
are
lot.
still at 6.5 here.
Feels like a lot.
It does feel like a lot. So I feel pretty confident in saying that the Patriots will cover in this game, but I do think the Jets will win. And I don't know if I fully see that offensive breakout just yet, but I don't think the defense is going to have a problem keeping them relatively quiet. So I'm going to say Jets 23, Patriots 19.
23-19. All right. I was even gonna go lower than that. I think this is an ugly 17-13. Like, kind of cross your fingers. I don't necessarily know if this is two teams that are designed to play on a short week and just kind of see what happens. I feel like this could be a vintage ugly Thursday Night Football kind of game.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I don't think this is the week for the Jets to round into form offensively. Like you said, I feel like this mini bye 10 days is going to be big for hopefully maybe making an acquisition or two for the defensive line, whether that's somebody that should be in the building or not, but also getting things right offensively. I would like to put points on the board early and kind of go downfield and script that out and try to attack the soft back end of this Patriots defense. But I think it'll be another grinded out, step by step win that is not going to be any fun to watch. And, your heart's going to be in your throat for the majority of it. But 17-13 Jets is my take. So any parting shots from you before we get out of here?
No, look, I mean, this is a game that I'm kind of nervous about, after learning about last week. Like, I look at the script that the Patriots set in that upset win over the Bengals to start the year, and it just feels like something that the Jets are very susceptible to, the way that they played this year. Pats got out to the first lead 7-0, then they were eventually up 13-0, and they protected it because that's what they're built to do right now. They only scored 16 points, but they got ahead, and they have the run game to finish it. They won the turnovers 2-0 because they just don't turn it over. And this is the big stat here. The Bengals only had 8 offensive possessions in that game.
Yep.
That is, that sounds like the problem from the Niners game, where the Jets offense just couldn't get on the field, get opportunities to do anything because they're playing a ball control team that doesn't make mistakes. So this is a nerve-wracking game. And look, I think the Jets deserve credit for their win this week, mainly because I think regardless of how high or low you are on the Titans, that was a team that is built to compete with the Jets, and they overcame it and they won. So they deserve credit for that as they're in this growing stage early in the season. And they're going to get challenged with another team just like that this week with the Patriots. So regardless of Titans, Patriots, how good they might be, if the Jets can come out of this 2-1, I think you feel really good about their ability to kind of weather some of these weaknesses that they've shown early on. It would be a good jumping off point as they develop and try to become the full version of themselves that we think they could be.
Yeah, I mean, that is a great way to put it. Go get a division win, go get a rivalry game win, go get a home opener win. Doesn't have to be pretty. In fact, we both expected it to be kind of ugly, but a win is a win, and 2-1 is much better than 1-2. And then use the 10 days to go figure out how you can out talent a Denver team that might be in full on desperation mode by then. So we'll see what happens. Keep it locked. JetsXFactor.com. Michael and the crew will be breaking it down, prepping for Thursday night on this short week. We'll be back on Friday to hopefully be talking about a 2-1 Jets win. If you're going to the game, enjoy. Should be a crazy, crazy crowd at Jet Life on Thursday night.